What is up, YouTube? I'm Indexed, and today we're continuing the Squid Game What If series. We're going to be talking about what if the players from Season 1 play into Season 2 and 3 games. So sit back, relax. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump in. Let's get clear the circumstances of the situation here. All the events prior to before the games started still occur for the Season 1 players, and in this video we're going to be using Season 1 Gyun with no knowledge of the games. We're not going to talk about the Junho on the island arc because that would be the same way as in the original timeline. Now, let's start off. The players wake up, and in the same way as in the original timeline, we'll be met with Doksu fighting Sae-byeok and Gyun nagging her for money. They'll all sign the consent form, but this time around, the voting policy will follow Season 2's policy of voting after every single game, with a chance to leave with some of the prize money. So, red light, green light would happen the exact same way, with 201 players surviving, and then the vote would look the exact same as how it was in Season 1, except Il-nam will vote for O instead of X in this timeline, because they probably wouldn't send a second invitation to play the games given the circumstances. After the vote, all the same events occur. Gyun starts to form a group, Doksu starts to form a group, Sae-byeok would sneak up the vents again, but she won't see anything helpful. Now, we're at six-legged pentathlon, and Gyun would try to form a team. It would consist of him, Ali, Il-nam, and Sung-woo. He'd initially go up to Sae-byeok to ask her to join the team, but she'd say no, and try to find some other people, but it would be hard. Only right before the team selection process is over is when Sae-byeok would join Gyun because all the other remaining teams would look weaker to her. For Doksu's gang, his pentathlon team would look like this. He let Mingle join because he'd give her the benefit of the doubt because it wasn't confirmed to be a strength game. The Dr. Byung-gi wouldn't join because the reason he joined the gang in Season 1 was because the guards told him to before lights out. I'm not gonna get deeper into Six Legs to save some time because the main point is that all notable characters will live, which is basically all our main characters and members of Doksu's gang. Alright, so in the original Season 2, from red light, green light over to Six Legs, the player count went from 361 to 251, a difference of about 110. If you do some math on that, that gives you a survival rate of just about 70%. So, let's say after Six Legs in this scenario, there would be 141 players left. This would make the prize money 223,404,255 won. The circles would just narrowly win by a margin of about 6 players. For the main characters, voting would look like this. For a brief explanation on some of these, here we go. Ali and Gyun would vote X because they wouldn't have gotten the chance to go home and realize just how much they needed the money. Il-nam would vote X, just knowing that the O's are gonna win, and he'd just say something random like he got confused while voting for a circle originally. I think Team Circle is explanatory, but Sae-byeok would probably consider switching to X, but realize that she's gotta help her mom and brother. Doksu would switch to Circle because he'd be greedy after seeing how easy the game seemed to be. So Gyun would have a group sticking together consisting of him, Ali, Il-nam, Sung-woo, and Sae-byeok. Even though they're all so divided on voting, Gyun would probably say something about how playing these games are so dangerous to Sung-woo and Sae-byeok, but there really wouldn't be any hard feelings. Next game up is Mingle. I'm not gonna talk about the game in its entirety to save time because every notable character except Han Min-yo and Byung-gi will live. For Min-yo, I think that's similar to how she was left behind in Marbles. Somewhere throughout the round, she won't be able to find a room. For Byung-gi, in this video, we're only using Season 1 players but the guards from Season 2. Since the guards in Season 2 already knew how to harvest organs, they wouldn't have a use for him, so they wouldn't have told him about the game, and he was already a loner before then, so he'll end up dying. I guess if there's one aspect of the story that might be interesting to talk about, it's probably the last round where it demands a duo per room. Each duo would look like this. Well, in Sung-woo and Ali's case, he's not gonna run with Il-nam because he's old. Sung-woo could definitely run with Gyun, but I think it's more fitting that he runs with Ali, given they were partners in Marbles and it just feels right. Gyun would want to save Il-nam like he initially thought he did in Marbles. Sae-byeok would go with Ji-young, not because they're friends, but just because she would know that she's the odd one out of the group, and she'd just quickly spot Ji-young and then run with her. Doksu, of course, would go with his minion. Now we've got the vote. There are 50 players left. This would make the prize money just about 800 million won. For the vote this time around, everything is going to stay the same, as their circles would win by a substantial amount, but we're going to say that by this time, Saebyok switches her vote to an X. We have no idea how much she needs to help find her mom and brother, but I'm pretty sure 800 million won would be good enough. In Season 2, Lights Out occurred because of the vote, but since the circles would be winning, this wouldn't be the reason for Lights Out. Instead, the guards are gonna give them less food to rile them up, and like in Season 1, Doksu's gonna get seconds, and then beat up a random guy trying to hassle him for food, and show that you can kill and get away with it. Primarily, the circles, especially Doksu's gang, will be the ones motivated to kill because it increases the prize money. So, when Doksu kills that random guy, the amount goes from 50 to 49 players. In Season 1, the Lights Out player count went from 107 to 80. Calculating the survival rate of this, it's about 75%, so there would end up being about 37 players left in this scenario. Every notable character is going to survive, and now we're at hide and seek. Initial team drawings would look like this. I know it looks like the red team has so many more players, but that's just because we're only talking about the notable characters. Doksu would of course want to stay as a seeker. Songwoo would think that it's better to have a knife on him for security, and of course Ali wouldn't be able to kill, so he'd end up switching with Songwoo. Gyun would get Seeker again, but Season 1 Gyun killing sounds seriously out of character for him. For me personally, I thought Season 3 Gyun killing Daeho was already out of character for him, and that's Season 3 when he was enraged and already broken. So, I think Gyun, who doesn't want to kill someone, would just find some random other person who wants to be Seeker and then switch to the blue team. Saebyok is good at stealth and that sort, so she'd want to be a hider. The game would somehow rig El-Nam to be Seeker so he doesn't get stabbed at some point in the game, and I think it would be an interesting storyline to watch Ji-young be a Seeker. So now, let's take a look at our final teams. Alright, so when the hiders enter, Gyun initially would want all three of them, him, Saebyok, and Ali, to go together, but Saebyok would say something like they would all just be waiting hand in hand to get found by the Seekers like that, and she'd end up going her own path and she'd want to go solo. Gyun and Ali would go together, then the Seekers would enter. Honestly, just to get this out of the way, El-Nam already being some fragile old man, not because he doesn't have the guts to kill, but just because he doesn't want to put in the energy or something to do so, would just walk around the arena looking confused, to which they would pretend to eliminate him at the end of the game. In Doksu's case, well, I don't think it's a question that he's gonna kill someone, more like, how many is he gonna kill? Doksu will go on an insane killing spree throughout the entirety of the games. Let's go back to Gyun and Ali now. They'd go around the arena, trying to find an exit. They would end up finding one, but realize they need all three types of keys. They'd go around seeing if maybe somebody else has the other type of key, and try to find Saebyok too, but they wouldn't find her. Eventually, they'd end up running into one of the members from Doksu's gang. Let's say player 303, and they'd run off, splitting off into two different directions. 303 would end up going for Ali, and then at one point, Ali will run into a dead end and get forced to fight 303. I think that Ali will actually end up overpowering him, just like how 120 overpowered 226. It wouldn't be as smooth as how 120 did it, but I think Ali could actually have the power to get out of there unscathed. He'd cry while stabbing 303, however. Then he'd take the knife to carry with him for protection. Go back to Gyun, and I think for the rest of the game he'd spend it hiding around corners, running away when he hears Seekers, but in the end, he'll end up being able to evade, and then at the end of the game, he'll be able to pass unscathed. Back to Saebyok now, she'll have done a really good job of being stealthy. Let's say she initially started off with a square key. She will have then been sneaking around finding dead bodies of blues, and would have picked up one circle key by this point, trying to find a triangle one now. But at some point or another, she'll get found by one of Doksu's gang members, let's say player 278. She'd end up running up the stairs into a place, but similar to how Daeho was running up the stairs, she'd slip a little bit, and 278 would catch up and stab a gash through her calf, and she'd be slower now. She'd run all the way up the stairs and try to open the door, but it would want a triangle, which she doesn't have. 278 would then slowly walk towards Sabiok saying something mockingly, but then Ali would come out of nowhere and then throw 278 down the stairs. But whilst he was throwing him down, he'd lose balance of his ankle, and kinda like how Junhee sprained her ankle, he would do the same and fall down the stairs. This would leave both 278 and Ali at the bottom of the stairs, and then 278 would have died from just hitting his head, but Ali would be still conscious but in pain. Sabiok would look down the stairs to see her savior. Ali would say something like, "Thank God you're alive," and then Sabiok would thank Ali for saving her life, and then she'd ask what key he has. Ali would have a triangle key, and they'd both talk about how they could potentially find the exit together. Ali would manage the strength to slowly get up and make his way to the stairs, but even before he makes it to the second step, Sungwoo would come out of nowhere and then backstab Ali and then kill him. The intercom would say, "Player 199 eliminated, player 218 pass." Sabiok would watch in shock as Sungwoo does this, and Sungwoo would shed a tear after Ali is now officially dead. He'd say he's sorry to Ali's corpse, glance at Sabiok, but then walk out. Now, just to clarify, because I know I'm gonna definitely get some comments down below, yeah, I think Sungwoo would spare Sabiok in this situation. You see, unlike Myung-gi, all the bad things Sungwoo did at least had some justification behind it. He pushed the glass guy because he wasn't gonna move, he killed Sabiok in season 1 because he needed the money to help his mom, Sungwoo would kill Ali just because it was what he needed to do to survive, and he would feel horrible about it, like when he betrayed Ali in the original season 1. Sabiok would also shed a tear, but then she'd realize she has to survive, and she'd make a sort of makeshift bandage with her jacket to stop the bleeding from her calf, and make her way down to Ali's corpse and take his key and knife. Sabiok would definitely be injured, but not so badly. She'd be injured similarly to how Daeho was injured. She'd be slower, but she'd manage to find her way to an exit, and eventually she'd escape. Now, to talk about Ji-young, honestly, I wanted to be able to write some sort of story about how she comes across Sabiok but spares her, but I just can't really think of any way that happens with this current storyline that makes sense. So, we'll just say that Ji-young came across a hider, hesitated for a few seconds, the hider ran away, and she never came across another one, and thus got eliminated because she didn't get a kill. Hide and seek is over, then they'd all walk back to the beds. Gyun would go up to Sabiok and then say he's glad she's alive, but Sabiok would just ignore him. She'd be traumatized from Ali's death and wouldn't be in a mood to talk to Gyun. Gyun would ask what happened, but then give up upon being ignored, saying something like, "What's her deal?" Gyun would go up to Sungwoo and also say he's glad he's alive, but then ask who he killed. Sungwoo would just blankly stare at Gyun, and then Gyun wouldn't question it, and then eventually connect 2 and 2 together to realize what he did after he sees no Ali has survived. But he'd forgive Sungwoo because it's what he had to do, but there would definitely be a little bit of tension. Okay, so in season 3, after hide and seek, 25 out of 60 people survived hide and seek, and that's about a 42% survival rate. You do that with 50 people, and that's about 21 people, but since Doksu goes on a killing spree, I would think that would make the count even lower. Let's say 16 people are left. That's 2,750,000,000 won per player. Sungwoo still ticks to O because he has a 6 billion won debt. Doksu remains greedy because he's dominated the game so far, staying a circle. Gyun and Sabiok remain an X, but it's a futile effort because the circles would still win. On to jump rope, the characters would walk in. Alright, I'm kinda getting off topic here, but in my other video called What If Doksu Was in Season 2, I wrote about how Doksu goes second and then pushes all the players off and beats Gyun in a fight, but I'm kinda having second thoughts about that. Someone in the comments made a really good point about how Doksu is probably not gonna go second, which I'm not gonna explain entirely, but I think in this timeline, if Doksu was playing jump rope, he'd go somewhere around the middle or early beginning, just not second. But that's for later. 1 or 2 background characters will go first, but then eventually lose their step and then fall off. During this time, Gyun would see Sabiok's got an injured calf and then offer to carry her, but she'd call out Gyun, saying that's a terrible idea. So, before Gyun gets the opportunity to carry her or stop her from crossing, Sabiok would just go onto the bridge, somehow make 4 or 5 jumps at most, but then fall off and die. This is where Doksu becomes a key player. Giyun would be processing Sabiok's death, but in the meantime, a few players would have already been going on the bridge, with Doksu leading the charge, and Sangwoo would be a few players behind. Doksu would then become the first person to pass, and then like 096, he'd then start pushing people off, initially pushing 2 people off. By this point, the 2 next players up would be 1 background character and then Sangwoo. Let's say, to make this interesting, the background character is the glass guy that Sangwoo pushed off originally in the glass bridge game in Season 1. Sangwoo would tell the glass guy to go and grab Doksu to bring him down. The glass guy would call Sangwoo insane, and that if he wants to do that, then he can just do that himself. Sangwoo would just say, then I'll choose for you, and then push him at Doksu. This would have caught Doksu off guard, but like how he was just able to push 322 off, he would just be able to push the glass guy off. In the end, Doksu will push everybody off and then win the games. Alright, wait, before you guys leave, I've got an alternate ending for you guys. I want to follow this video up with a sequel to this called What If Season 2 players played in Season 1 games. This video would need to have Giyun surviving, so I'll write an alternate ending in which this can happen. So, after Sabiok falls down and dies in jump rope, Giyun doesn't just stand there for a little bit, and he says he'll win for Sabiok. Giyun then goes on the jump rope and then becomes the first player to pass. Doksu would then go next, becoming the second player to pass, then he'd start pushing people off. Giyun will ask him what he's doing, and Doksu will say something like, "Hey, Sangmoon Dong, don't you get it? We'll both win 22.3 billion won together." Which, of course, Giyun will then say to move aside or he'll push him. Doksu will then curse him and then go on to fight Giyun, trying to shove him over the edge. Of course, Giyun is going to be losing the fight against Doksu, but it'll get to the point that he's only a few feet away from being pushed off. But in the meantime, while Doksu isn't able to push people off, some background characters will have passed, and eventually Sangwoo. Sangwoo would rush to Giyun's aid and push Doksu off Giyun, also pushing him off the edge. Giyun would also accidentally get pushed by Sangwoo, but he'd be able to grab onto the ledge right before he falls off entirely. Sangwoo would then help Giyun up. Okay, so that's the end of Jump Rope. In Season 3, originally, Jump Rope had a survival rate of about 37 to 38%. Let's calculate that into 16 players, and that gives us an astonishing low amount of 6 players for the final game. By this point, the prize money would be about 8 billion won per player. By this point, Sangwoo finally has the money to pay off his debts, and he would switch his vote to an X. Yoon would stay an X, and there would be 4 more background characters. Okay, honestly, I really want to say at this point that X would be able to secure a majority vote. We're not entirely sure of who the other 4 players would be, but they would just need 2 more votes to secure an X win, or only 1 to at least make it a tie. To make the storyline for our next video line up with the conditions of the actual Season 2, we'd have to make Giyun the sole winner. So, the rest of the 4 background characters vote O. Giyun and Sangwoo team, and on the Sky Squid game, Team O would target them. Sangwoo somehow comes up with some manipulation or strategy to make them hesitate. Let's say he played it smart, tells Giyun to distract him while he grabs the pole. He pushes 2 of Team Circle's members off, and the next round starts. A member from Team O beats them to the second tower, grabs the second tower's pole. Sangwoo and that guy fight. Sangwoo loses, but Giyun is able to catch that guy off guard and push him off. Now it's just Giyun and the random other guy. They remember to press the button and Giyun fights this guy and he wins Squid Game. That's our alternate ending, and honestly I know it's not the best written, but that's the only possible way I can imagine we could set up the sequel. So with that said, that's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time.